in a Mughal palace was governed by a strict hierarchy. At the top were the emperors and their families, followed by nobles and high-ranking officials. Servants were at the bottom of this social ladder, and their lives were dictated by the whims of those above them. The hierarchy was not just about social standing. It also determined the tasks you were assigned and the level of respect you received. Servants had to navigate this complex social structure carefully, as any misstep could lead to severe punishment or even dismissal. The workload for servants in a Mughal palace was incredibly demanding. From dawn until dusk, they were expected to perform a variety of tasks, ranging from cleaning and cooking to attending to the personal needs of the royal family. The palaces were vast, and maintaining them required a large workforce. Servants had to be quick, efficient, and discreet. Any mistake or delay could result in harsh reprimands. The physical and mental demands of the job were immense, and the pressure to perform flawlessly was constant. One of the most challenging aspects of being a servant in a Mughal palace was the lack of personal freedom. Servants lived within the palace walls and were rarely allowed to leave. Their lives were entirely devoted to serving the royal family, and they had little time for themselves. Privacy was a luxury they could not afford, as they were always under the watchful eyes of their superiors. This lack of autonomy made life as a servant incredibly difficult, as they had to suppress their own desires and needs to fulfill their duties. Scene 1: Cultural expectations. Servants in a Mughal palace were expected to adhere to the cultural norms of the time. This included understanding the intricate etiquette of the court. For instance, knowing when to speak and when to remain silent was crucial. The Mughal court was a melting pot of Persian, Indian, and Central Asian influences. Servants had to be well versed in these cultures to serve effectively. Missteps in etiquette could lead to severe consequences, including dismissal. Scene 2: Language and communication. Communication was another significant challenge. The Mughal court was multilingual, with Persian being the official language. Servants often needed to understand and speak multiple languages, including Hindi, Urdu, and sometimes even Turkish. This linguistic diversity was a barrier for many, as miscommunication could lead to misunderstandings or even punishment. The ability to communicate effectively was a prized skill, and those who mastered it could rise in the ranks. Scene 3. Social hierarchy and mobility. The social structure within the palace was rigid. Servants were at the bottom of the hierarchy, with little room for mobility. However, exceptional service could sometimes lead to better positions. Despite this possibility, the path was fraught with challenges. Servants had to constantly prove their loyalty and competence. The pressure to maintain a spotless reputation was immense, as any mistake could tarnish their standing permanently. Scene 1. The hierarchical structure. In a Mughal palace, the social hierarchy was rigidly defined. Servants were at the bottom of this structure, with strict protocols to follow. They were expected to show utmost respect to their superiors, which included everyone from the emperor to higher-ranking officials, and even other servants with more seniority. The pressure to adhere to these protocols was immense, as any breach could result in severe punishment. This hierarchical system ensured that everyone knew their place, but it also created an environment where mistakes were not tolerated. Scene 2. The rigorous daily routine. Servants in a Mughal palace had a demanding daily routine that began before dawn and often extended late into the night. Their duties ranged from cleaning and maintaining the palace's lavish rooms to preparing elaborate meals and attending to the personal needs of the royal family. The workload was relentless, leaving little time for rest or personal pursuits. This grueling schedule required physical stamina and mental resilience, as any lapse in performance could lead to harsh consequences. Scene 3. The cultural and linguistic challenges. The Mughal Empire was a melting pot of cultures, languages, and traditions. Servants often came from diverse backgrounds, and they needed to navigate this multicultural environment with skill. Communication barriers were common, and understanding the nuances of different cultural practices was essential. Additionally, servants were expected to learn and use Persian, the court's official language, which added another layer of complexity to their already challenging roles. Adapting to these cultural and linguistic demands was crucial for survival in the palace. Scene 1. The rigorous expectations. The Mughal court was a place of strict discipline and high standards. Servants were expected to maintain impeccable manners and adhere to a rigid schedule. They were responsible for a wide range of duties, from cleaning and cooking to attending to the personal needs of the royal family. Each task had to be performed with precision and care, as any mistake could lead to severe punishment or dismissal. The pressure to perform flawlessly was immense, and the workload was often overwhelming. Scene 2. Navigating the intricate hierarchy. The Mughal Palace had a complex hierarchy that dictated every aspect of life within its walls. Servants were ranked according to their skills and the importance of their duties. Higher-ranking servants, such as personal attendants to the emperor, enjoyed certain privileges, but also faced greater scrutiny. Meanwhile, lower-ranking servants had limited access to the inner court and were often tasked with the most labor-intensive jobs. Understanding and navigating this hierarchy was crucial for survival and advancement. Scene 3. Cultural nuances and challenges. Serving in a Mughal palace required more than just hard work. It demanded an understanding of the cultural and religious nuances of the time. The Mughal court was a melting pot of different cultures, and servants had to be adept at navigating these diverse influences. This included understanding the etiquette of court life, the significance of various rituals, and the importance of maintaining harmony among the different factions within the palace. Failure to respect these cultural intricacies could lead to social ostracism, or worse. The Mughal palace was a microcosm of the empire's social structure. At the top were the emperor and his family, followed by nobles and high-ranking officials. Servants were at the bottom, yet they played crucial roles in maintaining the palace's daily operations. Servants were divided into various categories, each with specific duties. For instance, some were responsible for cooking, while others managed the emperor's wardrobe or maintained the gardens. This strict hierarchy meant that servants had little freedom and were expected to adhere to the rules without question. A servant's day in the Mughal palace began before dawn. They were expected to be ready to serve as soon as the emperor or nobles awoke. Tasks varied greatly, from preparing elaborate meals to cleaning the vast palace halls. The workload was immense, and the expectations were high. Servants needed to be attentive to the needs of their masters at all times. Any mistake could lead to severe punishment or dismissal. The pressure to perform flawlessly was constant, making the job both physically and mentally exhausting. Beyond the physical demands, cultural and social challenges made life as a servant difficult. The Mughal court was a melting pot of cultures, with influences from Persia, Central Asia, and India. Servants had to navigate this complex cultural landscape, often learning multiple languages and customs to communicate effectively. Additionally, the social divide between servants and their masters was vast. Servants were expected to show utmost respect and humility, often at the cost of their own dignity. This could be emotionally taxing, as they had to suppress their own identities to fit into the palace's rigid structure. Our first scene takes us to the bustling kitchens of the palace, where the culinary demands were as high as the ceilings. Servants here had to prepare elaborate meals for the royal family and their guests, often catering to hundreds of people at a time. The kitchens were a place of constant activity, with cooks and helpers working tirelessly from dawn until late at night. The heat from the fires, the pressure to create perfect dishes, and the ever-watchful eyes of the head chef made this a daunting task. Additionally, any mistake could lead to severe punishment, as the quality of food was a reflection of the emperor's wealth and status. In our second scene, we move to the grand halls, where servants were responsible for maintaining the lavish interiors. The Mughal palaces were adorned with intricate decorations, from marble inlays to luxurious textiles. Servants had to ensure that every corner was spotless, a task that required meticulous attention to detail. This was not just about cleaning. It was about preserving the beauty and opulence that defined the Mughal aesthetic. The physical demands were immense, and the pressure to meet the high standards set by the palace officials was relentless. Finally, we explore the personal service to the royal family, a role that required absolute discretion and loyalty. Servants in these positions had to anticipate the needs of the emperor and his family, often working long hours without rest. They were expected to be invisible yet indispensable, always ready to serve at a moment's notice. The stakes were high, as any misstep could result in dismissal or worse. The constant vigilance and the need to navigate palace politics made this a particularly challenging role.